Hi, Internet. Good morning. It's Wednesday. It's SJU. It's time to talk about movies and TV and nerdy things. Mostly movies. We're talking, oh God, thank God, a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot maybe being on the horizon. It's about time. We're talking Apple streaming service, and we're talking about my favorite kind of numbers, scary numbers. Ooh. Oh, indeed. With me, Dan Murrell.
Hello.
Spencer J. Gilbert. Hey, man. Ed Greer.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, panel. I love you guys.
The blue's looking good on you, man. That's your color, brother.
Yeah, I look like that guy from that meme where he's like on the phone.
Oh.
But my girlfriend's encouraging me to wear more colors.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, listen to her. She's doing you good. Hey, speaking of doing good, Deadpool writers rebooting Pirates of the Caribbean. This is via Deadline. Disney's exploring a reboot of its billion-dollar Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. The studio has met with the writing team of Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. They're in early talks to write the script. It's not surprising they'd try to sort of breathe some new life into pirates. The first 5 movies grossed over $4.5 billion over 14 years. That's a lot of cursed gold. They, of course, wrote the 2 Deadpools. They wrote Zombieland. Jerry Bruckheimer would continue to captain the ship and produce. But at this point, obviously, they're just literally meeting with writers and sort of exploring their course forward. So there's no telling, like, does Johnny Depp come back? Does Orlando Bloom come back? Is it all Keira Knightley? Man, initial feelings, you guys, because I know a lot of big pirate fans, especially of the second half of the franchise here at this table. So how you guys feeling?
I don't know if there's a better example of the concept of diminishing returns than the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Like, that was literally every single sequel was just a lesser version of the one before it, until by the end, no one cared. So why? There's other things to make movies about. Why this?
I was really surprised, actually, on Movie Fights last week. What was the question you guys did? Like, name a great movie that launched the worst franchise.
Yes.
And I was really surprised Pirates wasn't like the lead contender, because that's a great first movie.
Yeah.
And then like those diminishing returns just go blur, 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 to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. I think it was just that the sequels to me weren't so much like god awful. They were just like, by the 5th one, it's like, who cares? I don't care. You're just redoing everything you've done before. It's obviously completely out of ideas. You can only take this so far. Johnny Depp doesn't care. Nobody cares.
Ed, have we seen everything there is to see in the ocean? What are your thoughts on this? I know you're about to chime in.
Do you want me to be on the wrong side of history about the ocean? Like a megalodon gets discovered tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, look at
well, and being on the wrong side of history is so hot right now. Just go ahead and
just jump in the deep end.
I don't think we've discovered everything in the ocean, but the first movie was literally like what made Spider-Man. You know what I mean? There's been irradiated spiders before. I bet you they've bitten people. But I bet you they've not resulted in a dude with powers. And I feel like Gore Verbinski, working off of, I think, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio's screenplay, and just there was a beautiful alchemy to that first one that could not be approximated again, ever, period. And they should have stopped when they were ahead. But this is a money-making franchise. I understand movies aren't necessarily art. But that first one pretty much was. I'm not into pirates, and I'm certainly not into Johnny Depp or Orlando Bloom or anybody like that. But, like, it was a good movie. I watched it and enjoyed it, and it was, it was beautiful. But them trying to do that over and over again, it's a copy of a copy of a copy, like Dan said.
Yeah, like Michael Keaton in Duplicity. Eventually, you're going to get that weird Michael Keaton.
The one that's like has a boot on his head or something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's multiplicity.
Multiplicity. What did I say?
Michael Keaton comedy's correct.
Oh, what did he say?
What did I say?
Duplicity.
Duplicity. Oh, that's the gritty small budget reboot of Multiplicity, where they only had the budget to make one copy.
Yeah,
just 2 of them.
And the one copy is just like,
Duplicity is a Julia Roberts movie, so very different.
Also, excellent film. Spencer, how do you feel about pirates and yo-ho-hoing?
I feel like I'm in that montage in Groundhog Day where he keeps killing himself, but you're not sure if it's just been the like 10 times they've shown on screen or truly an infinite number of suicides, because that's how hearing that I'm facing down another reboot franchise based off of a theme park ride makes me feel, Joe. This is something that I haven't enjoyed since the first one. There's been 4 more since then.
There have been 5. Believe it or not, 5.
5 total.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 2 pronunciations of Caribbean.
Caribbean. I haven't enjoyed I haven't enjoyed my life while watching the films after the initial gimmick. That's now 7 hours and counting of not. I won't say misery, but I'll just say like just comatose viewing experience. Sure. And it looks like I'm gonna get maybe a little zhuzh back in there, like maybe he'll turn to camera and be like, "Isn't this fun?" Yo ho ho.
Deadpooling, or a narrator will explain the rules to being a pirate, like Zombieland.
Like a freeze frame. Maybe he'll teabag someone. I'm just, this is beyond no interest for me. I'm sorry, Joe.
You're telling me you're not interested in like CGI octopus faces and ghosts?
No,
We've
man.
seen them.
Nothing I did. Yeah, that was movies 2 through 5, and I got everything I needed to see in the trailer. Like, oh, that's a cool effect, and then just numb, Joe.
Do you go, man? I don't know. I just know that we gotta talk about this for a few more minutes, or someone in the comments will be like, "You didn't even talk about your title story for more than 30 seconds. You just moved on to jokes about dogs." Are there any pirate things that could, like, any maritime, like, legends or folklore that you could possibly, like, shoehorn back into Pirates of the Caribbean?
Jack Sparrow was a great character.
Yes.
He ran his course.
He absolutely
ran.
He drunkenly stumbled. Yeah.
And he will continue to make money in the theme parks for decades to come. And good, that's as it should be.
Lovely.
What they need to do, like the hope would be that they could then just, instead of rebooting Jack Sparrow and just continuing to flog that dead horse, is if Warnick and Reese and the 7 other writers that will eventually be credited on this film can create another character that is as good as Jack Sparrow, well, then there you go. But that is so rarely the case. Instead, it's just like, how can we reinvent what we've already done so that it's just sort of like a 30-degree skewed look at what we've already done.
It's a younger Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Gotta diversify the casting. Somali pirates.
Oh, so we go modern. We go, okay.
Time jump.
Yeah,
I like it.
Jumping into the future is like, hey, and then some Somali
Sparrow,
pirates.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah,
Okay,
some
yeah.
Somali pirates come upon Blackbeard's treasure or whatever, and then start some Rube Goldberg plot.
Well, that would be something.
I would certainly watch Somali Pirates / The Goonies.
Yeah.
Chasing some treasure.
I did have
Spencer, fix this.
I have a Somali pirate movie pitch that if we're just trying to fill time, I'll just throw it out there. It was.
I've always wanted to hear this.
It was like a disgraced sailing coach who maybe gets blown out by the rich tech billionaires, and he just wants to go back to the roots of sailing. So he goes on a cruise to clear his head, and his cruise ship gets raided by Somali pirates. But where they see terrorism, he sees opportunity, and then it's kind of like The Air up there, where he kind of whips them into sailing shape, and then they win the America's Cup. It's a feel-good Captain Phillips.
That is as interesting as it is offensive, Spencer.
Dude, you just pitched Ocean Dangerous Minds.
How do I teach these pirates to sail?
The white shadow of the sea.
Wow.
What if Cool
I would
Runnings
much rather
was
see
worse?
that movie than
it's-
But what if Jack Sparrow was younger?
Oh god.
Or Old Man Sparrow? Are they gonna Logan up Jack Sparrow? Or he's been sober for 20 years and
We've seen how that movie ends. It's called What's Happening Right Now with
Right.
Johnny Depp.
yeah, true.
And it's not pretty.
It's scarf heavy and sad.
Great band name.
Memoir.
That sounds like
Hello, we're scarf heavy and sad. Thanks for coming out.
that's,
Wanker! You're the wanker if
His
anyone's
band
mate.
name is called the Hollywood Vampires. Don't ask me how I know that. It's just one of those random facts that burrowed into my head.
Is it actually called the Hollywood
Yes.
Vampires?
Of course it is. Oh, God. Wow. Well, they're going to reboot Pirates of the Caribbean, you guys. And
If they put in the legwork, it's possible, but history has shown that rarely is the legwork actually put in to do something.
look, I'm here for a cool movie about people jumping onto another ship and stabbing other people. I feel like it shouldn't be hard. But one out of 5.
But then what does it have to do with Pirates of the Caribbean? Like that's
Some of them are pirates?
Sure. Okay.
and it's in the Caribbean. And Cthulhu. I don't know. Squid People. I'd watch a bleak cosmic horror.
There. I've been there.
Yeah, they did do a big
Bill
old
Nye
squid.
was a
Yeah.
big old squid.
Yeah,
There's
the
not the Megalodon, the Leviathan. There was something that was
The
the Kraken.
Kraken.
How could I
We've
forget
had
the
Fountain of
Kraken?
Youth, we've had the Kraken.
Yeah.
We've had every
Mermaids,
iteration of mermaids,
sirens.
Yeah.
We've done it. We've done it all.
They've done all the pirate things.
Have they
done
had
all.
a plesiosaur?
No.
Now,
So-
if they want to buy the rights to the Meg back, because Disney at some point had the rights to the Meg, and now we're talking. Now we've got a stew.
Let's keep going.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's a
Megalodon versus pirates. They have no technology. Just imagine cannonballs hitting a breaching Megalodon.
Yes.
Come on, man. That's money. Dan, let's do
Now,
this.
now we're talking.
There was also supposed to be a Predator versus Pirates movie at one point. That was going to be.
How about a Predator versus
Oh, that's
Predator
right. That's
2.
where the gun came from.
That's where the gun came from at the end of Predator 2.
yeah.
He fought back to back with the pirate.
Yeah, they made a comic of it. I
Disney
think
just
Dark
bought
Horse
Fox.
did it. Ah!
Oh!
Predator versus Pirates.
We
This
have
is
we
it.
got it.
All right, we're back in. Put the Predator in it.
Anybody who's seen my last movie fights knows that just hurt me so bad. that I'm sitting on my stool, not ready to come back out for the boxing match.
That's fair. That's fair.
Throwing the towel.
No pain. No pain.
Oh god.
Speaking of,
Did I pitch that on Movie Fights? I think I did.
I think you talked about
I think
that.
I
Yeah.
forgot
Pirates?
that I argued for that on Movie Fights because, as I've stated many times before, the people who watch Movie Fights much bigger experts on what I said on that show than me. The
me,
person
yeah,
who
yeah.
said them, I don't remember.
Yeah,
any
it's
of
all
them.
done in a fugue state. I don't remember anything I've said in that
Not
show.
a word. Not a word.
Every now and then
So,
someone will be like, remember 2 years ago when you argued? I'm like, no,
Nope.
I don't. Thank you so much though for remembering it. Hey guys, Apple streaming. They're jumping in. Well, I mean, they jumped in a while ago, but like they're continuing to gear up. The war machine is moving along. There's a picture of a remote control
That you lose
Apple,
all the time. Why is it, that doesn't have to be the smallest thing. It's like a credit card. It's always between the cushions.
It's like really thin. Yeah, yeah.
And it controls all your devices. So if I used to have that problem. Back in my Apple TV would control my computer. So my computer would wake up while I'm trying to. It was
That
like,
happens to me every night. We'll be watching a movie and be like, the hell is that noise? And it's like Van Halen's playing iTunes on my computer in the other room.
My iTunes opens and then I'm playing music in the other room. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Apple, before we get into the streaming
Sorry.
thing, Apple needs to take care of the autoplay situation. I'm putting a line in the sand here. Just because I turned on my Apple device doesn't mean I just want Apple Music to be like, here's a song you bought in 2002.
But what's up with everybody doing autoplay? My friend Matt Blackwood writes for I don't think I can say, but
He writes.
It's a media thing. He writes, and he was like, he wrote a big screen on Twitter that was like this long in tweets about, I'm gonna sue Netflix. Why is this playing? Why do every time I click on something about? He went nuts. Like Appleplex took
broke
over
him.
It really broke. That was the last straw. That was like his falling down day. You know, like everything went wrong.
That was his breakfast sandwich at 10:02 moment.
Yep, absolutely. And I to me it is too, because like sometimes I'll try to watch movies while my girl's asleep and stuff, and then it'll like come on.
Yeah.
I'll be on the phone making a phone call, and like Hypnotized by Biggie just starts to blare at the same time somehow, and everyone on the phone is like, what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know. So I won't, just preemptively, I won't sign up for the streaming service because I know that A, they'll put a weird YouTube video in it without asking me, and B, they'll just automatically play it like in the middle of my Reese Witherspoon Apple show.
Yeah.
But let's jump into the story. Apple's joining the streaming wars next year. The Apple TV streaming service is set to launch globally in the first half of next year, and a global rollout reaching more than 100 countries. New reports show that Apple's working to launch its streaming service within the first half of 2019, bringing more than 100 countries a mix of original programming, access to third-party services, and channel packages offered by networks and cable providers. Less accessible Hulu, I guess, is what it kind of sounds like.
Yeah, the article, and I didn't put this in here, but what they're talking about is like bundling kind of what Amazon, I think, and Hulu already do. It's like the Showtime plus the HBO, some of the more like premium packages, kind of rolling them all into one.
So they're and we've talked about a few of these over the past year, but like they have stuff being helmed by Reese Witherspoon. They have an Oprah show. They have a Damien Chazelle series. Yeah, so I don't know. Do you guys think that they're just sort of relying on sort of the cult of Apple without having to?
No, I mean what they're
stand
relying
out
on
that
is
much?
it's free if you own a Apple device. So it's like, why not? They have this built-in audience that doesn't have to pay anything extra. I think that's a huge leg up on all these other ones. They're asking you to sign up for another thing where it's like, this is included with all of your overpriced Apple BS.
Right. It will be automatically added to Apple TV and iOS.
Your phone,
Yeah.
your iPad, your laptop, like it's just gonna show up. So that's a huge, to me, advantage over Netflix, Hulu, Amazon.
Right.
You know, it's a sunk cost. Like I've already bought the stupid phone. Like I might as well watch
use
Reese
it.
Witherspoon on it.
Yeah. No, that's true. So you think that I mean that's a smart entry into the streaming work, because I guess the big question is it's such like it's seemingly already an overcrowded market before any of this even launches. Like do you think Apple's wasting their time, Dan?
I mean, I'm sure they have analysts that say otherwise. I mean, if it's there, I guess if I hear that it's good, then I'll watch it. But it's just another. My whole thing with the whole streaming thing is like it's part cost and part just time, and it's just more content throwing into the gaping maw of an ever expanding, continually building mountain of content that no one will ever be able to watch all of. So I guess they just have to hope that what they're producing will be enough to draw viewers to watch their particular thing. I mean, it seems like this is a hardware play where they want it to be so good that people have to buy Apple products to. So in a way, I get it that it's not an ask in the sense of like you're not asking your users to subscribe to anything, you already have it. But at the same time, if you want to expand your consumer base, you're basically saying if you want this programming, you have to buy Apple products, which is an even multi-$100 you're switching over. So maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I see it going both ways. It's an interesting strategy.
Do you guys think that sales pitch works without any like recognizable IP? Like,
Well, I mean, we know Oprah, we know Damien Chazelle, Reese Witherspoon. Like these are these are names. I don't think yet that they need to buy an IP, but I could see that in their future for sure.
I mean, they got some ringers in this community church basketball game. You know what I mean? they got some ringers. It's like that episode of The Simpsons. You know,
Burn softball team.
Yeah, they get Jose Canseco to play the Springfield.
One of my favorite shots is just one
single
tear going down his face.
But you know, I mean, the thing, I kind of see where they're going with this, though. If they're going to try to compete with the big dogs as far as, hey, buy this extra thing, they're going to lose, period. But if they have some native thing that has some cachet on their devices, I think that they're thinking that that's how they can enter. And if they keep it small, keep it tight, and they just imagine they make a great movie or three, or a great series or three on this thing with high-level actors with budgets nearing what a feature film would be.
which seems what they're shooting for.
Yeah. I think if that works, I think people would be even more inclined to do what they're already doing, which is buying Apple products.
Yeah, because one thing that wasn't on here that I was excited about, I'm pretty sure it's Apple and not Amazon, is adaptation of the Foundation novels by Asimov. Like, that's one of the biggest genre things that hasn't really had a recent adaptation yet. So that was cool. And then Apple's just not in the business of selling streaming shows or movies or television. They're in the business of selling iPhones and iPads and laptops, just like with music. Like they didn't give a shit about paying artists or whatever for or making sure they were getting a fair shake. They just wanted to sell more iPods.
Yeah.
So content to them is really just like, yeah, if this makes your the iPhone 12 SX more attractive, then yeah, and the margins are better on that than on starting your new streaming service.
Yeah.
What Apple could do to really, and I don't know if this, in today's legal world, there's no possible way that they could ever do this because everyone wants exclusivity, but they could go with the iTunes Store model where you broker deals with all of the other streaming services so that people could go to Apple and buy that stuff a la carte. So it's like, oh, I don't want to subscribe to DC All Access because I Is that what it's called? Because, you know, I don't necessarily care about their library content, but I want to see Titans. So, you know, make a deal where you can buy that show or that. Again, that would never work. But I really do think that with everything that's happened, all of the different streaming services that are out there, somebody is leaving a lot of money on the table if they can't figure out, like, how do you figure out a way to take this huge funnel and just sort of compress it a little bit. And it's like, you know, I want this show from Hulu, this show from DC, this show from Disney, this show from, and I don't want to pay $87 a month for 15 streaming services, but I would pay those people somehow to watch Star Trek and Titans and Lord of the Rings and, you know, that without having to pay $100 to get all of their streaming services. But I don't think in the legalese world where no one wants to share and it's like, no, we have to sign people up to the service, I don't think that will ever happen.
Well, that's why in terms of streaming wars, Warner Brothers was the one that is the most surprising to me, because Warner Brothers to me would be the one who's like, who wants Harry Potter and old episodes of Super Friends on their streaming service? Like, start bidding. If you want people to buy iPhones that also sort themselves into Pottermore on a weekly basis just to make sure that it's correct, like, then, you know, step up. But yeah, I agree. I think we're going to enter this weird time where, I mean, they're marketing a product, not the streaming service. The streaming service is a billboard for the product, and I think we'll probably start entering that more and more. Like, eventually Netflix is going to be trying to sell you something.
Well, imagine, if you will, imagine something that's already on your phone or your iPad that's basically as good as HBO. Imagine that. You know what I mean? How that's that one little thing to push you over the edge to getting some big ass phone for your kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's not like an additional subscription.
Right. I mean, I think that's the bullseye that they see that I don't think anybody else sees, is that look at how much more that could generate, and look at the cachet even. Like, bumping Apple up from something that's in everybody's pocket to something that everybody's watching, that's different. That's a whole different plateau.
Yeah. But making good stuff isn't easy. A lot of these tech companies think that it's like they can disrupt the creative process by just kind of getting using crazy metrics or not getting involved enough is an issue that they have. So we'll see if Apple can.
Let me pitch this to you guys. Bird watching. It's a streaming service strictly on bird scooters. And you can only watch bird watching content.
JT yawning from the booth.
Just staring directly on a screen that's just on your bird scooter, and that's how you watch.
Trying to kill JT.
I'm trying to dispose of our engineer.
Those kids couldn't be more distracted, could they?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't around at 20 miles an hour staring at a TV show on the thing. What could go wrong? Hey, you guys want to talk about some numbers?
Woo! Yes!
Yeah! This is kind of cool. Rotten Tomatoes writer Mark Hofmeyer did a deep dive study into the correlation between body count and Rotten Tomatoes scores of horror movies. So, per Mark's article, which can we link in the description so that people can, like,
and you should check. I've known Mark for many years when he used to just come up with these random stats about, like, Tom Cruise's hair length according to box office. So he has a lot of cool stuff that you should check out.
I don't know Mark, but I feel like we'd get along.
Oh,
yeah, I feel like you guys would
You and Mark would be best
like
friends.
separated
Two peas in a pod.
Very interesting guy.
So per Mark, the parameters of the study were, we gathered a data set of 188 horror movies that are a part of a horror franchise. Franchises have to have at least 2 theatrical wide releases. We then counted the deaths caused by the central antagonist or protagonist in each film. We didn't count accidental deaths or deaths caused by animals or other non-antagonists. And we didn't count the killer's own death. We focused solely on kills caused by central villains like Hannibal Lecter, Krueger, Norman Bates, Jason Voorhees, and in the case of Final Destination, death itself.
That's true. The real killer.
The real killer.
The real unstoppable horse.
So here are the findings. Horror movies with 11 plus kills have a tomato meter average of 38.1%. A domestic box office average of almost 57 million. The number of movies around here are 65. This includes movies like Carrie, Aliens, and Army of Darkness.
3 good movies.
3 very good movies. Horror movies with an average of 6 to 10 kills, so a little less. Average a little more on the tomato meter, 41.7%. Box office goes up as well with almost 79 million. There were 50 movies in this data set, including things like Black Christmas, Scream 2, and Predator. Stay in that corner, Ed. It's cool. I get it. You're still hurting. Horror movies with 0 to 5 kills. The average shoots up quite a bit. It's a tomato average of 56.7, with a domestic box office range of about $116 million. Numbers of movies in this sort of data set was 73. This includes things like Psycho, The Omen, and The Conjuring. I guess sort of what the study overall is pointing at, less violent, maybe a little more focus on psychological fear and characters means a better return, a better overall well-received movie. Is there some truth to that?
Definitely. Ross and I talked about this in our spoiler review for the new Halloween movie. The difference between, the different types of slasher films, what they do with character versus some are character-based, some are kill-based. And I think you see, like, Carrie, Aliens, Army of Darkness, those are some great movies. But I think a lot of the ones in these horror movies with 11-plus kills are the later movies in a lot of horror franchises where the first movie, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, the first movie of a franchise, and the reason they spawn sequels is it's usually a little more character focused. You get the origin stories, it's inventive, you're getting the reveal. It's not so much focused on who's going to die. It's like, look at the scary new monster. And then as you go, by Friday the 13th Part 6, you know who Jason is. You don't have to introduce anyone to Jason. And it becomes about who's he going to kill and how many people is he going to kill. And that's what drives the franchise and what weird ways. But I think in a lot of ways, too, viewer interest declines. Critical interest with the tomato meter average, like critical interest in horror movies is already down. I think that horror movies a lot of times get a bad shake critically, even more so as you go down. So this makes complete sense to me in the sense that as horror franchises wear on, they have less story to tell, and all they have left to do is who are we going to kill and how are we going to kill them. And I think you see diminishing audience interest in a lot of ways in that sense, just because the franchise is going on, and definitely critically. So this makes a lot of sense to me.
Do you guys think that we're going to hit a bubble at some point soon? We've had like a lot of more psychological and character-driven stuff in the horror genre over the past couple of years, more so than like the crazy slashers of like the 80s and the 90s. Do you think that will hit that bubble, or is that a wave we're going to continue to ride for a little bit? Stuff more like It Follows, The Conjuring, Hereditary.
Is that really a bubble? It seems like that's just historically what people like, because this goes all the way back to the 70s. So it's like, I think it's kind of a timeless lesson. Is like, you can just spend more time with your characters if you're not killing all of them. Like you can, and I know people think that they like the kills, but what they like are the kills with meaning behind them, with like real stakes attached to them, and you just can't do that over 2 hours to 11 different people. You 0 to 5, sure. Is
it? I guess this is almost a critic tomato meter conversation in general. Is it fair to compare something like Army of Darkness, which is setting out to do something very specific, versus something like The Omen or The Conjuring?
I think that you always have to take into account when you're looking at a movie, at least this is how I approach it, is what are they going for? What is the intent of this movie? That's why I still enjoy a lot of the, for example, the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels or the Friday the 13th sequels, because those movies aren't necessarily setting out to be intense character studies. Those movies are setting out to be, let's see it, like especially like Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, that's very much like, let's see how creative we can get. Let's see how out there we can get. Let's see how wild we can make this. And I think they succeed on that. I think the Friday the 13th series, like parts 4, 5, 6, were about how creative can we be with Jason. Let's build him up to be like this just unstoppable force. I think those movies work when they set out for what they do. The Halloween sequels, I think, don't work because they're trying to be like, let's build the mythology. Let's bring in druids. And it doesn't work, but they're still also trying to do the killer thing where you're knocking people off every 5 minutes. And those two things don't mesh and it becomes a mess. Final Destination, I think, succeeds brilliantly at what it's trying to do. So I think a lot of times it just depends on how you approach it. It depends on how you're approaching the way that you're looking at the movies. Is Final Destination 4 or 3 a great movie? No, but I think it succeeds very brilliantly at what it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, but these numbers are bearing out that a different type of movie is more popular, that people necessarily, even if you do acknowledge what it's trying to do, is that not as many people are on board with that. Not as many people go to the theaters to see how creatively you can kill 12 people. It's like they want a little more.
The creative kills, I think, is something you get a little more niche.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not everybody's into creative kills. I think horror fans are a hardy bunch. And then sometimes you can go out a little wider the more that you sort of add artifice to it. But,
And a lot of times those movies cost less than, especially back in the days when they didn't automatically bump up the budget for every sequel. I think some of this is correlated to, okay, we don't have money to pay Jamie Lee Curtis. We have these community theater dudes, and we got to kill them cool. You know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that a lot of these movies fall prey to. But I don't know. To me, it's kind of a duh statement that, like, if you care more, I've always maintained 2 things about horror. One, I don't like that torture porn stuff where it's just like, oh, I went to a hostel and now I'm in the basement getting drilled for forever.
What movie are you talking about?
it just, to me, it's so stupid because horror, theoretically, if you got to the road and a nice guy in an RV pulled up, you could get driven away from Mike Myers or Jason or something of that nature. That's why it's scary. If I can get to the road, but you're not going to get to the road. You're going to trip on a branch and you're going to get killed with a chainsaw or some weird thing. So the bottom line is that's part of it. So if you can't win, it's not scary. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, if I don't care about the people about to get killed, I ain't scared.
Yeah.
I hate this lady. Kill her. I hate that dude. Kill him. You know what I mean? And that diminishes the overall impact, especially for critics. I'm noticing, yes, the box office bump, but this way more critic thing, critics would love more to care about, like myself, would love to care more about the people getting killed. But again, though, the box office also says the audience does too. So I think that might be the thing that's like not a duh statement, that the audience really does. They are able to discern that thing that critics harp on all the time.
I think that illusion of safety thing with the horror movies is a really interesting observation. That's why, like, I really dislike House of a Thousand Corpses, for instance, because at some point, I don't know how recently you've seen that movie, but I mean, basically, it's just piling shit on shit on shit on shit on shit until you're sorry for all the shits. But until, 20 minutes into the movie, the illusion of safety is gone because it just keeps getting worse. Like, oh, she got out of that, and now she's in a weird hell room, and there's actual demons now. Like, what? Like, and so once that illusion of, oh, could they get there is gone, I think I check out.
I think one of the most tense finales to any horror movie is also one of the smallest. I love the last 5 minutes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's literally she's being chased and he's chasing after her, and it's so messy. Like, she flags down the truck, but then that guy is like, "What's going on?" Then another truck comes down, and like he's getting so close to her, and it's so low stakes in the sense of just like it's just him and her and these people on the road. But it is more tense than, like you were saying, somebody being in a room surrounded by 50,000 demons. It's just like when you get smaller scale, the smaller the scale, the more relatable it is. And for me, that's when I'm scared the most. If I can relate to the person in that situation, like in a movie like The Strangers, where it's just I'm alone in a house and there's these people in masks that are trying to get me, or the first Scream movie before they started going into Long Lost Brothers and everything. It's just like the relatability for me is what scares me. And even Freddy Krueger, I think that doesn't take him out of the running because that's a very relatable thing. Like, what if there was somebody that I couldn't get away from in my dreams and I can't not sleep? So that's
well, I think the series got better after the Dream Warriors one, where they introduced this concept where it's like, hey man, just get buff in your dreams. You know?
And that's the series. And that franchise from then on was different from what it was when it started. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. They just changed the tone and they changed the tenor of it. And I love Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I think they're great horror movies in a completely different way than I think the first one is a great horror movie. Now, I think the first one, because it is a lot more plot and character thing, it transcends the genre a little bit. In that I take it out of the horror category a little bit and just like, I think the first one's just a great movie. And I think 3 and 4 are really great horror movies. movies, and I know that sounds like a weird distinction, but that's my head. That's the way my brain works. But it's a sliding scale, and I think people just want to put things in one camp or the other, and that's the fun thing about movies is they belong in all different kinds. There's all kinds of little different niches for movies and places to put them, and this one's this where, this one's here, this one's there.
Yeah,
that's the fun part.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Army of Darkness, you can look at that movie and be like, they're just. I mean, this is how my dad and I differ in how we look at movies. My dad looks at Army of Darkness and he's like, they're just throwing goddamn skeletons at a guy from off camera. This is ridiculous. And I watched Army of Darkness and I'm like, the timing of how they are throwing the skeletons and how they are hitting is amazing.
It's like this is perfect. When somebody falls out a window in a movie and they just obviously throw a dummy, that is so much more majestic than the stuntman kicking to make sure he lands on the bag right or whatever. You know, it's so much more majestic. You know it's a fake dummy. It's so funny. It's funny every time.
I think something that, quite frankly, critics do, a lot of critics do, is they paint horror with one big brush.
Yes.
And that's not fair to the genre because, I watched Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is, I think,
comedy.
Is a brilliantly made film. It is in the horror genre, but it is as different as you can get from a movie like Rosemary's Baby. Wow. And they both belong in the genre, but they both belong to different parts of the genre. And I think a lot of times, people will view horror as a genre, and so a critic will go see Rosemary's Baby, and then they'll go see Evil Dead 2, and they're like, well, there's no Rosemary's Baby. Like, but those are not the same things. They're two completely different things.
Totally. Well, I think we're seeing a natural splintering of genre, and I'm really all aboard it because as people who have watched the show for a long time, I hate Westerns. My dad watched a bunch of Westerns, but let me tell you, something weird in a Western would have me just like that. Some weird other element, not an alien
Cowboys
bracelet.
and aliens!
Not an alien bracelet. Dude, what's up with movies having like, hey, you got the Tamagotchi of our alien culture and you can fight us all. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? That makes no sense. I hate that. Every time that happens, we found an alien microwave. We can fight all the invaders. That's so stupid. I hate it.
You a big Green Lantern fan?
Well, that's the biggest weapon.
It chose him, yeah.
Well, it's also a huge super weapon. I'm just saying, like, they'll find, like, in the latest Predators, kid finds somebody finds a thing for a shoulder and somebody finds an armband, and they're just whooping Predator ass. And like, what? Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the Apple device that controls all of your other devices. Ed, let me make a quick pitch to you. It's a Western, but it's on a pirate ship?
With a predator?
With a predator?
Okay, if there's some black cowboys, I'm down.
Okay.
Wesley Snipes is fighting a predator on a pirate ship?
This is how studios work. Yeah.
No, posse on a pirate ship with monsters,
I like, okay. We fixed it. Dan, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Spencer, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure.
Ed, as always, thanks for being here.
It was super fun.
Hey, Internet, thanks for being here. And make sure you check out yesterday's Honest trailer for Halloween.
Can I plug one thing, please?
Yeah, man.
This weekend at Stanley's Kamikaze, I'm on a panel called Sketch Fighter where we do basically Geek Pictionary.
Yeah. It's a good show.
That's at 4 p.m. You can check your schedules for the room because I don't quite know.
Which day?
It's on Saturday.
Saturday.
And on Sunday at 2:30, we're performing stand-up. Stand-up in the daytime in a giant hall.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! So we would love for a lot of Screen Junkies to come see me and the other guys in Comics and Comics, Ron Swallow, and you.
Yeah, that's the LA Convention Center, right?
Yeah, you're like the Hulk of our Avengers of Comics and Comics.
That's a good show, and yeah, both of
Yeah, so Saturday at 4 for Sketch Fighter, Geek Pictionary. Sunday at 2:30 for Geek Comedy. All Geek Comedy, deep cuts.
Nice.
Be there.
Comics and Comics.
It's always a good show. Actually, those are some of my favorite shows to do because sometimes con goers just want to sit for an hour and have a break, and it's like actually a really fun audience.
We've had great crowds.
We've had great crowds. This week, movie fights. Oh, horror, very spooky. Yeah, very. Oh, we've got 3 horror experts. We have Cameron Rice making his debut after what I thought was a good showing and debut deathmatch.
Nice debut deathmatch.
Yeah.
So he'll be stepping up for this one along with Emma Fife and Clark Wolf. Coming
Can't
in.
ask for a better horror panel.
Oh.
Yeah, those 3 know a lot about spooky stuff.
Yes, they do.
It's gonna be a good show. We'll see you guys there. Bye.